Yo, happy Thursday to you, sister. How's everything going with you?
All is well, and happy Thursday to everybody else who's hanging out in the Rose Garden with us today. My name is Sarita. I am officially my brother's twin for the next couple weeks, and we are here in the Rose Garden to provide our own self, our own little therapy, and talk about whatever things relevant. But the group chat been wagging, so it set some details for us this week about what they wanted to hear about. How's your week been?
Yeah, it's been a busy, interesting week. I've been watching what's been going on with the world politics. So it's been
How can you
been
watch
interesting. How can you not? Because it affects us all. So I think it's something we got to always be aware of what's going on.
I know, but are you like watching it relentlessly or are you watching just like snapshots of it?
Nah, I'm staying plugged in because I'm gonna see like how this thing where it's going. And it's honestly it's a really great learning lesson just to see how folks are dealing with this adversity.
What are you
Wanted to say some shout out to Megs. Megs had like a major medical you know surgery. So
No, really?
yeah, here she recovering and all that.
Oh, Meg,
So
we
hope she got a speedy recovery and that she tuned in with us.
yeah, and she's a super fan. Like Meg joins every week, so we definitely have to send her love and light. And there's lots of birthdays that we're celebrating this month. I mean, my goodness, everybody uh has had a birthday, including me, but there's other friends and family that birthday has been
Yeah,
rolling.
shout out to cousin Brian. It's
Yep,
his birthday.
yep.
What up, big cuz?
Yeah, I
Happy
know.
birthday to you.
Happy birthday. Um, and then like a lot of friends have birthdays, so it's perfect. I've been celebrating all month, so
Hmm.
been absolutely great, and people are still taking me out. And Meg is here today. Hi, Meg. I hope you are recovering good. Yeah, we can't have a show without Meg. She's wow. Um, I love when she's here. So and I'm sad to hear that she wasn't with us. Well, Meg keeps us straight, and she definitely keeps you straight. So I'm really appreciative of that. So two things that I wanted to tell you. I didn't get a chance, or we started the conversation about are our messages being said clearly, and I want to put a period on that discussion because as we are transitioning into other leadership roles and other positions, I know I may be transitioning into one. um, Message dissemination is always something I want to be clear about. And so when we talked earlier about could that when you were directing the person, so I had a situation where someone called me, asked me for specific information about what to do, and there were instructions on the page above, and your feedback to me once I gave you um uh you know what the story was like, were your directions clear? And what I want to be clear that uh sometimes people are selectively choosing what they hear and what they read. And there is a new uh there uh there is a new kind of conversation now. Everybody's getting feedback from TikTok and everything on how to be. And so there's a new conversation amongst like young people is to show all this initiative to show that you're a leader. And I think that's really good. I don't think that's bad news, but I think that what the message really needs to be is communicate your intentions, because some things can truly be uh, taken inappropriately. So like putting someone's signature on a form, or not filling it out completely, or leaving things blank because you didn't understand, makes it worse, especially if things are time sensitive. So that's my public service announcement. Is like, yes, take initiative at work, and it does definitely show people that you have leadership qualities, but it also can be very misconstrued, and it sets us up for lots of problems later.
Well, you hit on a couple of things. One is like the leadership and what that mean to people, right? Because to me, uh, leadership is serving, right? And I think that people who uh, make directions. The folks that put instructions in, like how to build. Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yeah, how to build.
Yeah, how to build do-it-yourself stuff or whatever. I was thinking that, when one of my first jobs, in the technology industry, it was like working on this help desk, right? And to get hired there, I had to do this interview, and the interview was funny because it was a practical interview where you got to actually do something to
Hmm.
demonstrate your competency.
Hmm.
And the thing we had to do was I had to get a partner that was somebody at that company, and I had a box of Legos on my side,
Wow.
and I had to build something, you know, and I had to show it to the interviewer what I built. And then I had the person who was the partner from that company,
Hmm.
they had the same box of Legos,
Hmm.
and they told me to now instruct that other person over the phone how to build exactly what you did.
Oh, wow.
And I had to describe to them, what I did, the steps, exactly what I did to build it. And then, once he was done building it, they went and retrieved that construction project from him, and
Hmm.
they compared it to the one that I did to see how close it was.
Hmm.
And I got the job because it was identical.
Oh, wow.
So it made me think, like, sometimes when I guess, like, when you hear feedback from people, you know, if you look at it, the feedback is valid. Like, like I told you,
Your mic cut again. Turn a little bit to the.
can you hear me?
I can hear you now. And turn your
Yeah,
shoulders a little bit more to the camera.
yes. What I was saying is, when I let me turn this damn thing off because people be
Interrupt.
not respecting my time. You know what I mean? So I was just say, when I when the example that I was sharing with you, though, when I told my teammate, like, hey, send this contract over, we got to get signature from the partner, and then once they get the signature, I gotta apply my signature, and then we gotta submit it somewhere else. So the initiative that you were saying that they took, which I know that they were trying to fulfill the request I I had, and they wanted to do it right, but what they did was they went ahead and signed it for both of us, right?
Mhm.
And then asked the contact, hey, do you approve this, that we signed it? And then Xavier, do you approve that I fixed your signature? I felt some type of way about that
Mhm.
because we don't want to. I don't want nobody signing, for me. You know what I mean? So I figured, our the person that was supposed to be executing the contract, he wouldn't want that either. Plus, we don't want them to be thinking that we just going to take the liberty to fix their signatures to stuff, right?
Right. Right.
So I thought about, the request I had, and I was like, he did exactly what I asked. And maybe I just wasn't clear enough in the way that I asked the question.
Mhm.
So now that made me say, you know what? I'm gonna make an adjustment. Whenever I get feedback on something
Mhm.
and it's unclear, I'm gonna make it clear, right?
Mhm.
So, like, let's just say our employee handbook. At first, my company employee handbook was like 3 pages.
Mhm.
Now that joint is like a volume, like a dictionary. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Yeah,
Right.
because you got to spell out stuff for people exactly clearly. So when you was telling me the thing on the form,
Mhm.
uh, I was like, it's not really clear though, because, like, the person's feedback, it was true. Like, which, when you read the instructions, it makes sense to me.
Mhm.
But I guess it's because I understand the intent. But now, if I was in that person's shoes, the question that they asked, I could see why they asked it, because they're like, well, it says to put a one if it's applicable, but what if it's not applicable? What do you do? Do you put another number, or you just leave it blank?
Let me say something, and this is
Hmm.
a lesson from Rose.
Hmm.
You read everything to include the instructions. So the way this particular, so I would agree with everything you said about your team member. My person that was not the case because the instructions are just that clear. It says if it's not applicable, you leave
It
it.
say leave it. Does it say that? Leave
It
it blank.
says keep it unanswered or keep it something like that. So if
Mm-hmm.
it's not, you only respond to the question if it's applicable.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
response is included in the question. So this is why reading is so important. But we do have a real literacy problem in our country. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and you couple that with people who don't want to slow themselves down enough to do something. Like how many people picked up a piece of paper and just quickly read it? There's all kinds of other things to add to that. But this in this case, it was not that the instructions weren't clear, but it reveals a problem with our society, which to me is like, there's mixed messaging coming out. Well, there's one message, let's take initiative, be assertive, all be leaders within our groups, which is good. But if you're going to be a leader within your group, you need to be able to consider the risk and the rewards to some of your behavior, which I don't think your team member did. In
But
this,
what? But my question is like, what is leadership to people? Because I think people be feeling like they want to be the leader because they want to be the boss and all this stuff, right? Or they
mm-hmm,
want authority, like all the glorious things that they believe comes around along with leadership. I mean, honestly, when I look at the world leaders today,
mm-hmm,
I think that they are a perfect example of what we're describing, right? Like they're wanting to be leaders for this recognition and the status and power and all the stuff that comes along with it.
mm-hmm.
But they don't look at leadership from the perspective of leadership is really serving,
Serving other
you
people.
know. Yeah, so I think like like to be a king or a queen, for example, it's not so that you can subjugate your citizenry or whatever, your kingdom.
Mm-hmm,
What it is it's to you're there to serve the people so that it flourishes. So
mm-hmm.
you make decisions so that everybody can have a lifestyle, they can have business and all this stuff. You make decisions to impact their lives, but it's not so that you get lifted up on some lofty pedestal. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying all that to say, look at it from the perspective of like we were talking about with like the person they called Jesus, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the example of his life where now uh, the whole world gonna remember him and his legacy is etched you know throughout eternity in human existence because of the contribution he had.
Mm-hmm.
But he don't really have no physical like genealogy, legacy in that sense. Though he don't have no progeny or nothing,
Right.
right? So I say that to say his whole thing was service. Like
Yeah.
the people that believe in him now believe that he gave his life for their sins and that all they got to do is believe on him and their sins. So the fact that a person would do that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
give up their life. So like my whole thing is, if you want to be a leader, are you thinking of it in those sorts of terms, or is it like to really
Mm-hmm.
fan the flames of your own, pride and ego? You know what I mean?
Well, ask
And
yourself that question, like, how
mm,
did you want to get into, I think that's your examples are marvelous, but how did you want to get into leadership? Because I think my story is unique, but how did you want to
well, I
become?
had no choice. Like my whole thing was my life. Led me in that direction. So like I think how they say sometimes people are born for something
Hmm.
and then sometimes people are made for it. I think either way, those things are the same, right?
Right.
Because like whatever situation you're born into, that situation gonna make you for the ultimate circumstance, right? So for
Mhm.
me, I feel like, you know, uh, I was either born in or made for it, but in this way, I feel like it's a healthy right way. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because for me, like I lit my stars up early enough with some F's on my report card that made it challenging for me to take this, the path of getting employed by somebody.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
that means I had to chart my own path out. And
Mhm.
again, I had two choices in that. I could have made it to where uh, I had a pity party and victim stance and cried about, the circumstances I was in. Or I could be like, well, I got myself in these situations. Now I gotta figure out the way to get myself out of them, and then how I'm gonna chart my course forward.
Mhm.
So that's how mine happened, and I would say that in addition to that, I had like some sort of compelling uh, feeling of helping other people that are like me. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Mhm.
That's going through similar circumstances and situations, and being an example. Like I always do realize, I heard it at Brother Yusef's martial arts school where he was saying, the world is watching you by what you do and what you don't do. You know,
Mhm.
so at the end of the day, you may not know it, but people are observing you. You know,
Mhm.
now that don't necessarily mean that the how I'm moving is based off of what because somebody else is observing me in a certain type of way. But
Mhm.
I'm holding one quick second, sister. Somebody phrase it.
Y'all are disrupting the rose garden. I am going to get them. This is like not okay. Who is bothering us during this time? Well, y'all.
What else, sister?
I
You got meet
got
Logan
me.
here. Logan in here doing some vents or whatever. So he coming in and visiting on the podcast.
Logan over there messing up I'm judicious and I don't judge, so I'm happy that he's there doing his job. So it's I'm so happy that you are open about your challenges because um one of the things that I've been trying to encourage um uh, uh our your niece, my baby, my daughter, is to be yourself because they live in a world that's so different, right? Like where they have so many models of what success looks like through social media and things like that, that it can small things can look like, oh, that's not big enough, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so because of that, I noticed in her conversation that she's saying things like, well, I just don't know what I want to do with my life. And she's majoring in hospital public health and hospital administration, and she's just feeling the sense of, I'm not going to be successful enough. And
Hmm.
my ask to
Hmm.
her was, well, like, what is it that you um, want to be successful in and with? And
Hmm.
she was
Hmm.
basically saying, you know, that she wants like money and be able to
Hmm.
travel and be able to be, you know, uh, living that influencer life. And I said, well, when I was in school, there was no such thing as an influencer. Like that wasn't like a job to aspire to. And I swear, if we told grandma one day we want to just sit around, be on YouTube, that would have never been like okay. Um,
Hmm.
but one of the things that grandma did say was, because I don't think that she kind of knew all the professions in the fields, but she said, be great at what you're great at, and figure out what do something really good, right? Like cultivate that skill, whatever it is, and be good at it. And then if that skill's not good, then try something else on. And so I was trying to explain it to her in that way, and she kind of poo-pooed on it because she was like, listen, y'all work long hours, it's taking you all these years to do this and that. And what she was
Hmm.
is something that's like very quick and immediate, like people on social media state, let's take Jake Paul, for example, because she used that
Hmm.
example where
Hmm.
like he just was running around like supermarkets and pranking
But
people.
that's the surface level shit that people see though, right?
Mhm.
Because I mean, Jake Paul actually had to work at getting to where he's at. Because in the sea of a whole bunch of noise, him and his brother Logan, where I give him credit at, is that it wasn't it seemed they everybody's gonna look at them and say like it seemed like what they did was easy, but it wasn't. You hear me? And if it's so easy, then another person could do it. You feel
Well,
me?
other people are doing it. And
Not
what I
at that level though.
probably not
Not
at
at.
that
I
level.
mean, and that dude, those
But
two
what
dudes.
value does Jake Paul like? One
Well,
of the
I mean, there's a like again like on the surface level, you look at someone and you might be like, to me, he's number one changed the game in terms of boxing for sure.
talk about the beginning,
Particularly for women though,
but think about it in the
particularly.
how he started was he was a prankster. So he was there to entertain, correct? So what I told her was he really what he cultivated well was like what an actor or somebody else would do was he figured out what were the things that were needed to entertain. But if that's not your gift, right? Like I don't think anybody in our family are town gestures. Like I'm not. I don't want to run around with a jester hat and make you laugh, and I'm not going to ever be an actor, right? That wasn't my gift. But maybe that was his gift. Maybe he was funny. And that's how he took that comedy and other kind of athleticism and turned that into something. I'm not diminishing him. What I'm saying is you putting value on that by just what you see. Like all he was a prankster. To me, isn't then what you need to aspire to. Because if I'm sure there's a lot of people wanting just to be pranksters right now,
I
and they're
mean that's how you want to look. Like I think again, that's people who like they truly don't have vision. You know,
not right.
like you could be in this world and you be sighted, but you be blind as hell because like like for instance, Microsoft, not Microsoft, but McDonald's, right?
Hmm.
You know, they everybody know McDonald's as a fast food company,
Hmm.
right? And most of the time, you wouldn't look at it as a healthy, fast food company option, right?
Hmm.
But the thing about McDonald's though, in terms of the business world, the global business world, number one thing is that they really more a real estate company than they are a food company, right? If you really can see, what they're doing, because most of the time, like the wherever there's a McDonald's, they actually own it. They
Hmm.
own the land in the building, you
Hmm.
know. So like they really like a real estate company, but beyond, what they're doing in terms on the surface of selling the food. I look at Jake Paul as a digital marketing guru. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? And and people who have money are going to Jake Paul for help to
Hmm.
get money. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And like he do be helping them. And then another thing is, what he did with Amanda Serrano and all them.
Hmm.
All you gotta do is go interview her, talk to her, and she'll tell you. Like
Hmm.
he's the reason why women's boxing, has just skyrocketed. You know, so when she fought the other Irish lady,
Hmm.
all that was off Jake Paul behind that. You know,
Well, that's
and I
I don't want to diminish him. I think that there
yeah.
is a value. What I'm saying though is
Mhm.
I'm not talking about the high level parts, the parts that people are missing. I'm
Mhm.
talking about how it's being deduced by young people.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I
The
see.
young,
I see what you're
right.
saying.
And that young people are seeing, well, uh,
Hmm.
he was a prankster, he was an entertainer, and now there's this substantive growth,
But
and he
that's what they need us for. That's
yeah.
why we're here to guide them and help them to decipher and understand like what's the better part of that. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? It's
Hmm.
just like saying, right now, if you see me around like doing something that, you might want. Like for instance, like you mentioned someone else aside from them, but it just looks glorious, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like this dude got a private jet. This dude got
Hmm.
a helicopter or whatever. It looks glorious. But you know how many hours, you know what I mean? Like they said, hours and hours of dedication and work and blood, heart, you might have had to give a leg and an arm for that. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And like right now, let's just say, I
But
was
people don't
always
tell their story really.
that's because I always wonder this, right? Let's just say if we could talk to if we could make a deal, you know how they say sometimes you make a deal with the devil, right?
Hmm.
And the devil sits you down and they say, hey, I'm gonna give you would you want this $1 trillion? You know?
Hmm.
And the normal person say like, hell yeah, give it to me. You know what I mean? Give
Right.
that to me. And then they say, okay. I'll give it to you. But guess what? After you get that $1 trillion, everybody you know and love, they're going to die. Terrible, tragic deaths.
Mhm.
And you'll never have you'll after they're gone, you'll never have a real deep personal relationship again.
Mhm.
Like just terrible things, that could happen to you. Like you have this $1 trillion, but you only got 3 more days to live.
Mhm.
If you could trade that off, would you do it? You know what I mean? Like if right now somebody told me, I'll give you $1 trillion, but then that cuts your life short to where you only got half a day to live. I'd be like, man, fuck that trillion.
Right.
Yeah,
So that
yeah, it
was
ain't even worth it. You know what I
consequence
mean?
of the
Mm,
easy, the consequence of but to your point, most people don't talk about their stories. Like,
mm,
you said you created a situation for yourself that you had to make a choice and you had to create a way. Um, and I think that most people don't want either tell that story or do the work, because that's what I hear from all the young people in my life is,
mm,
oh,
mm,
y'all are working hard. Our parents worked hard. But,
mm.
I think everything in life takes hard work.
One hundred percent.
I think about raising children, and I think about my grandmother raising children in her 60s, right? Like when we
Mm,
got there, like I love my grandchildren dearly. They are always over our house, and they are a lot of they bring us lots of love and joy. I can tell you, I'm not in my 60s, and I wouldn't want them, you know, in my 60s. Like I
well,
need.
maybe that's why we got a bunch of spankings then, because you short of patience in your 60s. Like, God damn, I tell you, don't jump on that couch. You do that again, you know what? Let me. I will get that on
Stop
you.
touching it. I want that stuff to stay clean. I want your clothes to stay clean. She spent all day ironing our stuff, and then as soon as you put it on, you got it messy. I mean, there was some real uh lack of patience, but also um it was unfair, really.
Mm,
It was
mm,
like it's also kind of unnatural. Like
mm,
I'm really just supposed to be a grandma to my kids. I'm not supposed to
mm,
raise my kids. Um,
mm,
and there are so many people that do it. And they do it well. Like I think to the best of her ability, she did it well. But
mm.
there was a cost and a consequence. Now, the lessons though that I take with me, like, and that came from the group chat because they said, this grandma of yours must have been a dynamic person for you all to spend time in, something that gives her honor. And I'm like, first of all,
Well,
still old to me.
well, I'm gonna tell you, but grandma was definitely highly energetic. I mean, everybody who knew her knows that she was a very unique individual. But I mean, everybody is though. So I mean, we all snowflakes. We all unique in our own right. But I think like she definitely, had like a personality that stood out.
Hmm.
But the thing that the lessons that I learned from her more was from what I seen and observed of her, in her own life and things is what she has done. But I mean, she everything she's ever told me or shown me or whatever has been true and good. But I feel like
Well, what's one lesson that
well
you do?
the outcomes of her upbringing, like I would say that when she got us, our fate and destiny was dismal. You know what I mean?
You
Just
check
think
this
of
out,
it, yo.
brother. You don't think
I
we
our fate, our destiny was dismal. See,
dismal?
look, I think like people, when they like again, they say consciousness knows nothing of itself.
Okay.
So that means like people don't really look at their situation and be like, man, this is like, we in like a, this is the honest truth about who we are and what situation we in. Now our mother and father, I think they was married. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
technically speaking, we weren't like bastards or whatever by definition of it.
Right.
But what was up with their situation was that they were very young when they had us.
Mhm.
They didn't graduate from no college and all this stuff, and neither one of them took us to raise us. So
Mhm.
our grandmother had to do that. So now let's just say, like, our real situation is we motherless and fatherless children who weren't brought up in a situation to where we had learned proper, you know, behavior and stuff. We was kids, we still babies, toddlers, whatever. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? So we knew nothing. We couldn't
I
even read,
I
write
want
nothing.
everybody to know that I knew everything. I always had etiquette
Well,
everywhere.
see, that's good that you say that, so people know how this delusional you are, right? Out of touch with reality. But that was our real situation. Plus, also, our parents weren't, they didn't, they weren't rich.
Mhm.
So like us, and they come in, and our grandmother and all that. It wasn't like they were bad off. You know what I mean? But my whole thing is, she was inheriting kids that weren't in the greatest of situations, weren't brought up in the greatest situations. So we could have been all kind of unruly brats or whatever, but grandma made sure that didn't happen,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Then, you know, when we was with her, she had us in everything, right?
Mhm.
So she exposed us, she talked to us, she didn't treat us like we couldn't handle the truth of reality. She gave, and she was extra. She made sure we had health care, abundant food, fresh food, healthy food,
Mhm.
that she was doing extra stuff, giving us vitamins, doing all this stuff.
Cholesterol,
Yeah, we had all the best stuff. Like, you could, yeah,
raw.
y'all had braces, she'd have, she'd have put y'all into ballerina, tap dance, piano, whatever it was. And all of these things again cost money because wasn't nobody taking no welfare stipend for a piano class. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
Or ballet thing, whatever. So I'm saying all this to say that she is the reason why we are who we are. you
Mhm.
know so if you look at that in and of itself, the outcome speaks for itself.
Mhm.
So whatever flaws we have, that's our own individual flaws, right? Because again, that's what we chose, because you can't own another individual.
Mhm.
But definitely the good things of us come from her.
Mhm.
You know what I
Well,
mean? So I was.
I would say
Hmm?
some of the I love that that framing because uh it puts context around the fact that we all have free will too. Like, so we had this very disciplined interaction in growing up.
Yeah.
That's because I think the kids asked me one time, what word would you use about your upbringing? And disciplined
100.
would be the word that I would use. It was very disciplined, regimented, um, but
Hmm.
it was also one of service.
Hmm.
Like, so one of the things that I was thinking you were going to get to when you were describing her was while gave us all the we had to serve her and she served us. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, that's true.
we had to
That's
give
true.
her massages and she make you get into her arm real good and tell you you're not doing it good. And then you had to, after she been out there laboring, she wanted her shoulders rubbed. And I forgot about that. And I was sharing that with my children and saying, that was her way of being affectionate, and
I don't know about that.
I think it was,
that
I think touch,
was
think
her way
about
of
it.
setting up structure,
No, think
and
about
so you know how,
think about
and knowing your place. You know what I mean?
think
Well,
about
I told you to
getting
come
affection.
massage my feet. That means you come massage my feet,
Well, she,
and
well,
you a
she,
child, and you gonna do this. Then I told you to take these pots of water, and do that. You gonna make that happen. You gonna pull out weeds from
wait a minute.
flowers to do this.
See,
That ain't no infection.
Xavier is processing the work part of it, but I think the touch and the time spent and the rewarding conversation when massages were being given, when she was doing our hair, for example, or when she was overseeing the water pots. Sometimes she would be very congratulatory about how fast one of us came down the
Well,
hill.
I'm gonna let you live inside of that fantasy story. You know what I mean?
The
But I
affection.
know the difference between like affection and stuff like that.
I
That
don't
part
know
of it
what you
wasn't
do. Your
affection.
closet is empty, and you have these whole expressions. I think it was a lot of expression of affection. It's just not the kind of affection that is what we talk about. Like we talk about
No, I
husband.
give her that. I give her that. She definitely. I definitely see where she's very loving and affectionate human being, and she definitely showered us with that. I could see
But not with words.
how
Not she
not
wouldn't say
not
I
will
love you.
she did sometimes with words too, but I mean, like whenever she was, I feel like she was level setting, which
What
is like
what
keeping
that mean?
you keeping you in touch with reality. You know what I mean? Because I think sometimes people can, um, they can get too big on themselves. Like for instance, for example, uh, I don't know if you ever heard it. There's this poet, right? So just to cut to the chase on the shit, he wrote this beautiful poem about a woman. It's a love poem,
Okay.
right? But the way that the love poem, he's saying all these beautiful things about her eyes, her lips, her face, she's so kind, virtuous things about her character, everything. But you know how he ends it? He goes, but she poops. You know what I'm saying? So she's this wonderful creature, but she expels
Excellent.
excrement, and it's terrible. That part is bad, right? You know. So my whole thing is,
And I
when he's
gotta introduce
acknowledging in
that
that is
poem.
you
You know,
still, I'm
you
gonna give
see
it to you. I'm gonna send you that poem. That thing is interesting because it's like, it always reminds me of like reality, right? Because like you could, put somebody on a pedestal and fantasize about like how great they are, but ultimately they're just human. That's why they had that statement of it's kind of bad to meet your heroes or
mm,
whatever,
mhm.
because you just start find out that they're just human, just like you
That's
are.
human,
You know what I
just
mean?
like you are.
Hmm.
And
So,
you're
so
right.
she was doing that for us, like level setting, because you could pump somebody head up and make them think they this and that, but she gonna let you know exactly who you are.
Who
You're a
you
slob. You
are.
you
Long
do this and this and that, but that don't mean she don't love you.
No, right. But
Yeah.
the
Hmm.
problem too is then we're also looking for
Hmm.
messages of love in ways that we think they should come. Like, and
Hmm.
I'll give a good example because one of my girlfriends was talking about not finding young love. She always says, "Oh, you guys found love in the right way. You found them when you were young." Blah 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 blah. And
Hmm.
she's like, her love never came. And I thought I've known some of the people personally that she's dated, and they
Hmm.
were great, great people. But her
Hmm.
focus was on like career, things that elevated her and her egoic experience. And that
Hmm. Hmm.
when I was young, I always was looking at um, how I could create a family and what that family would look like. It wasn't, and it didn't diminish my own goals. I always had goals individually, but a goal of mine was how do I work within a family and a family unit and
Hmm.
make that family special. And that family
Hmm.
could have meant extended, friends. It could have meant, my husband.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I was always looking for that. I wanted that.
Hmm.
I thought that was important. And I think
Hmm.
at least in our generation, amongst my friends who are, perpetually single, some of them, and I feel
Hmm.
like they're wonderful people. But when
Hmm.
they look back and when they have to have real discussions with themselves, the things that the people that they diminished at times, they diminished them in thought and in concept too. Like, so they didn't, like it would be a chore sometimes to come back to, from work activities because they had to network or whatever. Um, they have all the money in the world now. They have lots of things, but they don't have the relationship. So they're asking the questions why. And I was like, well, that was because it was what you coveted. Like I could describe all my friends who are single. I thought they were going to be single, even though for a long time, because I just never saw them as married people, because everything that they valued and was important to them had nothing to do with a partner. It has something to do with, I got to buy a house by the time I'm 21, you know, versus, well, what you gonna feel in that house? Who you gonna live with? So,
Yeah, I see that. It's the me versus the we. You know what I
hmm
mean? Yeah,
hmm
because I could see that because I think you know it's an investment to build a deep relationship with somebody. It's an investment. I mean, even in it with a child, right?
hmm
That's why I could see how you know you can bring a child into your life, right? any your own natural ones, or however way this comes. And it's again, a choice, because it ain't a damn given. Just because you created a life don't mean you gotta be still sitting around. I don't condone that you don't. I think it's optimal that you do,
Hmm.
but I just think that again, it's your choice, right? And then if you make this choice, you really making a choice to invest in somebody else outside of yourself, right? And then that is that's a challenge, because I think like you got to constantly like renew the commitment and love to a person. So it's not like a thing of finding something, it's almost like you're making it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Yeah, because that's why I always say, when somebody say they finding something, it's like they're getting something. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So
Hmm.
they're like walking around looking like I'm giving some, but I feel like bonds are made because of what you're giving.
Yeah.
So like right now, when you and your husband came into each other's life, you wanted to give him something,
Hmm.
and you have, and he's giving you back. You know, but it ain't. Yeah, relationships are highly conditional.
Oh, I was taken too. I was taking all his cooking. My mother. Oh, I was giving, but believe me, I was taken. Like
I know, I
I
know.
was taken. Like I got a lot. My
Well,
mother.
I think every life has intrinsic value. So no matter what, like the life being around, it's going to give you something. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
So I do feel, but the point is that your focus ain't centered on what you're getting. It's
Yes.
centered on what I can give. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
And all of the best like relationships, like the people know what value they bringing into it.
Hmm.
Because like let's just say somebody that want to be a good friend to you, whatever. They like, I know I'm gonna be loyal, I'm gonna be
Hmm.
dedicated, whatever.
Hmm.
And this is a great gift that I'm giving, you
Right.
know.
Right.
But too many people, they like centered on the fact of what they want to have. You know what I mean? Because I do believe too that the life together takes on a whole nother shape.
Hmm.
So like I might have some goals, and I might still achieve the goals I have too, but having somebody else's assistance in it, and also their own goals, right,
Yeah.
alters the course, the trajectory, and the outcome for me too. You know what I mean? So what?
Absolutely.
And I don't necessarily think I think that's a wonderful, amazing thing, to be real. You know.
But it's unpredictable. And I think that's the other part is it is wonderful. It's almost
Hmm.
like it's almost like it's fun because it's changing every day. Like there's some kind of
Hmm.
like surprise. But
Hmm.
when a lot of the people that maybe who are single or haven't found those relationships, they're living
Hmm.
inside their own complex universes that might be full of traumas, disappointments, failures.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
it's maybe easier to make that smaller so that you don't risk the fail. And what I would say is like I'd fail in partnership any day,
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm.
and not just relational partnership with like with friends and stuff. Like I got a network of people that love me. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Um, I'd rather do it that way than do it the other way. But a
Hmm.
part of that network is, and I have not, and I will not ever profess to say that I was always a good friend.
Hmm.
Like I have
Hmm.
completely grown into
Hmm.
being this version of myself. Uh,
Hmm.
but um, I always endeavored to be in reciprocal interactions with people. And I always endeavored to figure out how much to balance what I was giving with what I was taking. And I
Hmm.
think that's been important. And I saw that in my grandmother, right? Like
Hmm.
there was
Hmm.
nothing that she did. There was always reciprocal interactions with every person that she engaged with, whether it was the church, whether it was being a grandmother, being a partner. She
Hmm.
gave as much as she took. And I think
Hmm.
that was the biggest lesson for me.
Hmm. Hmm.
And there was not one person that you would meet that would not say the identical thing about her. Like she wasn't. two different ways around. There was just one rose, and I also like that about her too. She was very unique.
Well, what I agree. I guess another big thing that I like of damn, well, that was terrible. I hope y'all don't hear this noise. But you know what? I think what I love most about her is that she never held her tongue on what she really thought and believed and how she felt. But despite how much you would disappoint her or whatever she thought, it didn't interfere with her loving you. You know what I mean? See, I think like right now with certain people, for example, if I do if I'm if I disappoint a person, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Then what I think people do is they like basically pull away from you completely. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like to me again, and then pulling away from you, then that's exiting from the situation and that's really breaking it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But she never did that. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? She wasn't never,
Annoyingly
but
so.
you wouldn't think that though, because she make you think like, well, if you do some shit like this, I ain't gonna be in your corner and all this stuff. Like you would think she gonna give you tough love,
Mm-hmm.
but I know that if I did something that the whole world didn't like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I was like Jeffrey Dahmer or something like this,
Mm-hmm.
you know, she would tell me about myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, man, you crazy, you sick, you need to be in the same place, whatever, all that.
You say all the
But she
truth.
would give me a place to live. She would feed me still. She would still be my grandmother. She would still love me. She'd still be my family no matter what I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I take that lesson from her,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like there's some like relationships in my life that I think back on that I really appreciate. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? That
Mm-hmm.
they might not be what they might not be now what they were at some other point in time. You know what I mean? So I'll take one for example, so it ain't so cryptic. But I look at like, Halim, like, where we grew up, whatever. Well, he gonna always be central to my nostalgic memories
Mm-hmm.
because we had so many shared experiences, shared memories together.
Mm-hmm.
And but we may not be, so closely connected now, but
Mm-hmm.
I still got a great deal of love for him because of this. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna always appreciate him for the role that he played in my life at this time.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what, uh, the however he feel about me, whatever he think about me, don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I feel about him is this type of a way. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so I so I look at that and I'll be thinking, to me, like I feel like uh, when it comes to all these relationships, nobody's perfect. Inside the business, we doing some stuff, and like I say, me and Jane, we be doing big business together, and
Yeah.
but we be having frustrations because people are the most unpredictable part in this shit, right?
Yeah.
And so like uh this is one of my team members supposed to be working a project. They getting paid right now on board and basically they're getting paid for nothing, for doing nothing. Right. And they supposed to start, you know. Now they got through the onboard and everything. They supposed to start report to work and they're a no show. And that
Wow.
reflects negatively on me, which reflects negatively on Jane.
Right.
And then now we're just like, what the hell's wrong with this person? So, things have happened like this in the past where a person might, they died, so we start worrying about the person. Can't nobody get in contact with them. All that. Then the person surfaces and says, oh, I'm on vacation. And I'm be on vacation till Friday. I'm like, why the hell didn't you tell somebody this
Right.
beforehand?
Right.
Like this is basic stuff, but I'll say, but what if Jane looked at that and said, well, that's Xavier's staff, and it wasn't good, and because of that, I ain't gonna do no business with him no more.
Right.
But
Right.
she don't do that. We look at the whole thing together, and we vent off of the frustration and aggravation of the unpredictable elements, and then on my own, I look at it and be like, well, these are some things I could improve on.
Yeah.
Number one, when a person comes in the door, I'm gonna stress the importance of basic courtesy, right?
Yes.
Of this and that. So, I think grandma showed me that in her behavior,
He did.
right? So that's what I appreciate about her, you know.
And we take it and show it in our everyday lives. Well, I appreciate you always hanging out with me in the rose garden and making your sister calm down because I be having lots of stress, and you are always there to listen and provide a calm. I got to give a celebratory shout out to our your angel and my baby who is a senior and playing in her senior game next week, and we are going to celebrate her as she's
Oh
trying.
hell yeah! I'm looking forward to her having a stellar performance. Is
Yes.
this gonna be her last game or is it
No, so they
it's
have
not?
like the championship games coming up,
Mhm.
because they'll
Mhm.
probably be in the championship where their record is. Uh,
Mhm. Mhm.
so, but it's an exciting time to have a senior in college. I'm really
Mhm.
excited
Mhm.
about this. And I'm excited and proud of us, me and you, because
Mhm.
coming where we come from, I done sent two brats on my onlyest dollars, to college successfully. I got, one that's graduated and has his own family. Shout out to my loving daughter-in-law who came to hang out with me, and my wonderful grandchildren, and then my daughter who is pulling up the rear, and they were definitely different. Like, the daughter was an exceptionally gifted student and exceptionally gifted athlete. My son taught me that for what you don't necessarily have academically, if you have that social part of you still gonna be okay. So I needed both parts of them, and their successes. So all the parents who don't have the straight A student, they're still very successful. Like, they graduate college, they go make their own way, they go make their own decisions. So I'm just happy that I'm over this stage
No,
now.
I'm happy for you on that too, because I know for sure like we was the people that was
Oh, they was
written off
talking.
in our life situation. I think like the people in the neighborhood,
Oh yeah.
people in our family, nobody thought, and rightfully so, because most of the time people in that situation that we was in would be the statistics that wouldn't be as glorious, right? So, but they ain't had a Grandma Rose factor.
That we had.
Yeah,
Nope.
and that Grandma Rose factor is what made all the difference for us, I feel.
I would
And
agree.
and I
And
think
she
we
knew
all admit that. We all can
we
agree
can.
to that.
And did I remember that she always said we were special? Like we had problems. Like y'all was bad. I was good.
Mhm.
Y'all were so horrible. And
You wasn't bad though.
I was bad.
You had see that's why I say you got some delusion.
I
Hey,
was
I'm
At that point in my life, I was a follower, and my siblings were doing all kinds of horrible following their terrible leads. But we were, honestly, I don't think we were either. None of us are bad. I think we were very curious,
Mhm,
very,
mhm,
uh, you know,
mhm,
you
mhm.
always thought outside the box. So, I don't think limits are the same to you. I don't think you see limits in the same way. And so there was a lot of things that you were like doing that I think, I wouldn't necessarily do, but I wasn't afraid to do them with you all. So, but I never had any doubt in my mind that our family was going to be okay.
Well, I ain't know. I mean, there's definitely some precarious periods. You know what I'm saying? So I think like we had like teenage pregnancies and homelessness and incarceration and
But
street
even
life and
then,
this and that. Like those times, I wasn't so sure what was going to happen. Like I ain't had no crystal ball, and I ain't know what our situation was going to be or how we was going to turn out. But I feel like, and who could? Because I think everybody who knew us in periods of times, I definitely could see that we were written off.
right.
And
Well, those very people who did the most of the judging instead of the helping, to me,
yeah.
I look back and I see like y'all don't have nothing.
Mhm.
Y'all
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
I mean, I think like that adversity is what leveled us all up. You know what
yeah,
I mean? And to me, like again, sometimes what people mean for bad for you, ends up being good. And but also it something got to be said about the individual. you know, who makes all the decisions and choices and does all of the actions to get to where they're at. So
Hmm.
I give you credit, and I give our sister credit for coming from the set of circumstances and experiences that we came from to achieve the outcomes we did. Like that definitely is incredible. You
It
know,
is, and it's fun.
so
I had a great life,
yeah, indeed.
as
Hmm.
shout out to living, because we've had a lot of sudden deaths around us in
Hmm.
our little
Hmm.
friendship circle, and so we're doing it, brother. So I'll see you next week in the Rose Garden.
All
Uh,
right, you too,
now,
sister.
wait a minute. I hope
Hmm.
the group chat is fulfilled because they wanted to hear about this dynamic Rose. So I'm looking
Yeah, I
to
mean,
back in the
i-
group chat, see what
if
they
they
say.
want to know about anything about Rose, all they got to do is look at Rose's breadcrumbs, right? They'll see a piece of her. I don't think, she definitely was one of those people that was I want to say an overachiever, but she thought definitely really high of herself,
You did.
and she backed it up with with achievement herself, and she, like you said, she was full of love and service for others, and she really cared. And
Yeah,
you know I think that her methods and all of that stuff, after you think about them, they was effective.
they
You know what I
were.
mean? But at the time, in our little kid mind, like you said, you don't understand it. Like, who comes and takes everything out of the pantries and the cupboards and tell you to put it back? Can you imagine right now somebody came to your house and then you came into your kitchen and everything was removed and
Wait a
they
minute.
tell you put it back? You
Who
like,
says pick up pine cones with your bare hands until there's no more on the ground? Right? There's no, I want this. We were the first landscapers with no equipment.
yo, I mean, like
Young
all these little things, you be stick. But now, like those things, you be just like, well, that shit ain't nothing. Like,
Yeah, we
if
did.
you
We
really
can't
gonna clean, you need to take everything out. That ain't clean if you ain't take everything out of the drawers, the cupboards, and all
and
that, like
clean down
all
to
the
the
books off the
baseboard.
bookshelf, all that. It's some like dust back there. Take all that out, like take it all out and then put it back. And I
Yep.
guarantee you now, if you did, man, my kids would say they're gonna call the police on you.
Well, I don't want you to get locked up, brother. All right, bye for
All
now. Thank y'all for
right.
listening to the Rose Garden.